Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, geeks and nerds and ambassadors everywhere, and welcome back to the Ambassadorial Wing. And hope y'all have had a wonderful weekend. And we are back once again with a brand new Modern Marvels review. And tonight, me and, well, you know her, you love her. Well, I do. Man Ambassador are going to bring y'all our thoughts on Miss Marvel. And of course, if this is your first visit to the Ambassadorial Wing, welcome. Glad you're here. Hope you enjoy your time here with us. And if this is not your first visit and you are a regular attender here, glad to have you along with us tonight. And I have dropped the link over on my Twitter and everything for anybody that wants to join the stream tonight. So, and if you would like to be a part of the stream, please let me know in the chat and I will send you the link on Twitter and we'll talk Miss Marvel. So, with all that being said, make sure you smash that like button, share this out with all of your Marvel fanatical friends like me and Madam Ambassador, and tell them this is where the fun is this evening. So, and do want to say hello to the chat, those that are lurking and those that are chatting it up. Good to see you all. Just George, it's good to see you, buddy. Actually, Miss Marvel actually made me excited for the Marvels next year. George, yeah, you're not the only one. And that is actually the wrong banner. So sorry about that. Okay, let's try this one. That's better. Anyway, tonight, well, this past week, we got the final episode to Miss Marvel. And I have to admit, this has been a series that I was pleasantly surprised by. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect because I didn't read the comic that was based on this series or this character, so I was going in a little bit blind. But I was very, very impressed with this series. And I have to say, this character of Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, they went an interesting direction with this series because we got to look at a character from a different culture and from a different background than what we're accustomed to seeing in the MCU. I mean, we've obviously had characters from different ethnic backgrounds and obviously religious backgrounds, but this is the first time we've ever really gotten an in-depth look into the background of a character like Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. And this series does have some touches from Spider-Man No Way, or the Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland, in particular with some of the very interesting animation styles. I say interesting not in a bad way, but in a good way. And this was a story about a young woman coming into her own, coming into her place within the MCU, within the broader Marvel universe. And honestly, this was a series that I and Madam Ambassador really enjoyed. So, um, honey, your thoughts?
Um, I think it was just a great all around series. I think the last episode, especially, was just mind boggling explosive. It was action packed, it was full of a lot of fun and adventure and just awesome. There's no other word to describe it except that.
Yeah. Well, starting off with the what kind of work backwards. I think that'll make it that'll especially everything. Um, the series wrapped up with a bang. I would say this was one of the better finales and everything, or more well-rounded finales for a Marvel series that we've gotten lately. Although ranking this amongst the Marvel the various Marvel Disney Plus series that we've gotten over the last year and a half roughly, this one all across the board, the whole series and everything was, I think, very well structured, very well put together, and it it gave you a good sense of where Kamala was coming from, her family, her culture, and who she was as a person. I mean, this is a young woman who quite literally idolizes Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. And oh, hey, George is here. Okay, hang on. Hold on 1 second, George. I see you, bud. Okay. Hey, George. Good to see you, bud.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. So, talking Miss Marvel tonight. So, uh, George, your thoughts on the series? What do you think?
When it first began, I wasn't really gonna expect much because I wasn't the biggest fan of Captain Marvel, and I don't know much about Miss Marvel. But honestly,
Hmm.
like the first few episodes, I got like a Spider-Man Homecoming kind of vibe, which I really liked. The whole like high school like side of being a hero, and I kind of felt like I related to Kamala Khan in the whole like fanfic like department, especially because like I've been doing a fanfic myself like recently. But like I really found like her like how like her religion like played a role at times, like how like they delved into that, and also how like they brought back like damage control and like how big of an influence they're becoming in the MCU.
Well, actually, you can hear him.
I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, okay. I thought you could.
No.
All right. Yeah, George. It's been a while since we have seen damage control in the MCU. I mean, the last time we saw them was, I believe, in Spider-Man No Homecoming, actually. So it's been a while,
Yeah,
and they've
although
kind
that
of
one agent was from No Way Home, that Cleary guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was damage control in No Way Home?
Yeah, because they interrogated Peter and his friends at the beginning.
Oh, that's right, they did. That's right. Yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
about that. So
because like I know the first episode when Cleary appeared in the post credit, I was like, oh, this guy again.
yeah, Damage Control has really become an annoyance in the MCU and everything. I know that they're trying to do. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to be a stand-in for Shield, but I don't honestly. I think a majority of the agents are a bunch of assholes, to be perfectly blunt.
Yeah, that's what I
Eh,
loved about the finale. It was like kind of like a middle finger to damage control.
Yeah, it was. Um, Let me ask you, honey. In terms of Kamala's journey through the series, granted you didn't get to watch the whole thing, but you got to watch episode 4, 5, and 6 and everything. What did you think of how she progressed as a character?
I think she grows enormously. I mean, she starts out as this, for lack of perspective, merely a fan who would love to be like Captain Marvel, to becoming someone similar to Captain Marvel, to really, and then she learns so much about her family, and she develops a better relationship with her mother and her father, and you see all these aspects. Just she keeps growing up, even though she isn't aging, but she's
Maturing.
maturing. That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
So, um, George, let me ask you, what did you think of the family dynamic in the series? And not also, we'll get into her relationship with her two main friends, Nakia and Bruno. But what did you think of the family dynamic in the series?
It kind of went in like ways I wasn't expecting. Like I mean, like at the beginning, like obviously they seemed like a pretty strict family at first, but like you kind of see like things grow with the friendship and like that actually like the family like dynamic at the beginning, like it actually reminded me of the Disney aspect of Marvel because you see that in Disney movies just in general.
Mm-hmm. What George was saying, George. Just so in case you're wondering, we're sharing a pair of headphones because I hers aren't charged unfortunately, so I'm the only one who can actually hear you. So if you hear me repeat anything you say, it's just for Mam Ambassadors.
Ah, it's
So
all
keep
good.
it.
It's all good.
So, um, what George was saying is essentially um, how it very much had that Disney paradigm or feel to it and everything in terms of how the family was structured.
That's
How
true.
it felt like like a family that you would see like from an old Disney movie.
Yes, that's very true.
So, and that, the one thing about these Marvel series that I've really enjoyed is the variations on the family dynamic. But in this particular instance, we see a normal nuclear family. Now, granted, a family from a different culture than what we're accustomed to, because let's be honest here, we're all white. we don't necessarily have a great deal of experience dealing with a family from Pakistan, much less a family that is from a different religious belief, and that is, of course, Islam. And I have to say it, they did, I think, a very good job at portraying how the family structure, but also was built. But they also did a really good job of being respectful to the uh,
Culture.
the culture and also the uh, the religious structure of what Kamala and her family believe and how they worship. That for me, I think one of the strengths of the series, because this is a young woman who is religious. Granted, she sees her faith in probably a different perspective than her mother, her father, or the other members of her family might. But at the same time, her and her friend Nakia and everything. And I have to admit, the two of them, they almost give me a. This might be a very dated reference, but I think it's appropriate here. Um, Ethel and Lucy. If you get that reference, George, you may not. So, um, what do you think of how of the relationships between Kamala and Bruno and her other her her girlfriend and everything, Nakia? How that worked out? Anything how they built those out?
It kind of like I said, like I got like a lot of like homecoming vibes. It almost reminded me of like Peter's friendships with like Ned and MJ, obviously before like the spell ruined Peter's life. Like I feel like
Mm-hmm.
this show like seemed to be like inspired by like what like the Spider-Man trilogy like did with like those friendships and like the teenage like superhero dynamic. So like at times I got like vibes of that similar friendship, but at times it also felt like there was more tension in the friendship than there was with Peter and his friends.
Yeah. What he was saying is the vibe that he got was kind of similar to Peter and Ned and MJ in the Spider-Man trilogy, except with that there was a little more tension in there than there was with put it this way, how Peter and Ned interacted with each other, and how Peter and MJ, obviously there was a
Right.
the romantic element there, but with Kamala, she sees Bruno as a friend, but she doesn't see him much more as that. Whereas he,
Sees her as more than a friend.
yeah.
Right.
So, the one thing I will say is I said this a few days ago, and I think this is one of the better origin series or origin movies. I almost consider this a origin movie that we've gotten and everything. I'm not saying that all the origin movies have been bad and everything since phase one. They haven't. But I have to say this was more well rounded in comparison. I would compare this almost to going all the way back to the first Iron Man movie and how well you've got an idea of the origin and the personality and the background of a character in terms of Kamala. If you put that next to Iron Man with Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr., I'd say these two characters, how their origin was introduced, was actually very well structured. George, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say like Kamala is definitely like of the new characters that have been introduced in Phase 4, she's definitely to me the most likable. And honestly, I feel like had they like took aspects of Miss Marvel and just made from the show and just made like a full-fledged movie, I actually think the movie could have turned out very well. And like I mean,
Yeah,
compared to the other MCU shows that like were just shows, like I feel like this is the one that really could have been adapted well into a movie.
you know, And I want to say hello to the chat, Shandoko. Shandoko, it's good to see you. Stopping by to say that Miss Marvel is probably my favorite MCU show thus far. A lot of elements really connected to me. And I love the message about family and community. Yeah, Shandoko,
Yeah.
I did as well, and everything. And Madam Ambassador, I think she shares that.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Up into this series, WandaVision was my top MCU show, and it lost its standing. This is now the top show for me.
Well, I think with a lot of the MCU series thus far, they are going a different route with how they're building out the MCU in Phase 4 by doing both streaming series and movies. And I have to say how Miss Marvel fits into all this. She definitely fits into the extra dimensional or the multiversal element of Phase 4, and I'll be interested to see how she interacts with Captain Marvel and Monica Rambeau in the Marvels that comes out next year. The thing now, getting a little bit more into the series and everything, the one thing I have to admit is I like the fact that we don't get the villain right away, and the villain was, I think, empathizable. I think this is the first time in a while that no, because a majority of the villains we've had in like Phase 4 and in the MCU series have been fairly empathizable.
They have.
But they didn't put the bad guy right at the start of the series. They got introduced, I think, episode 2? Yeah. So, George, your thoughts on that, on the villains?
I think overall Phase 4 has actually been pretty good for the villains. Like, it started off like I would say a bit rough with the villains of Falcon and Winter Soldier and Black Widow not being all that great, but I think like recently you've seen a big like real change with the villains in a more positive way, and I think like Miss Marvel like definitely like continues that good trend of having promising good villains. Maybe not great villains, but at least good villains.
Yeah, the villains, for this one, they're not malevolent. They're not, I will soon assemble my destructo ray to destroy New York City. This is a group of extra dimensional beings who are simply trying to get back home. And they are very driven to that end. And the way they introduce them, they seem at first very amiable. They seem very respectful and everything, but you don't see their real nature until episode 3 with Kamala's brother's wedding, isn't it? Wasn't it, George?
Yeah, I think it was episode 3 when the wedding happened.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because it was episode 3. The thing that I found with Kamala's relationship with the clandestines, and in particular Kamran, he was trying to help his mother and the rest of his friends, and the rest of her friends, try and get back home. But he wasn't willing to go to the extreme ends that his mother was. He didn't want to see Kamala's dimension or Kamala's world destroyed. But at the same time, he was trying, especially towards the end, he was a character that was in a lot of pain because of the fact that his mother died in episode 5, and she transfers her power to him. To what exact reason, we're not entirely sure. If it's maybe so that he can himself get home, maybe. But the thing I found interesting with Kamran was he was a very intriguing character. He seemed to genuinely like Kamala. He didn't want to see any harm come to her. And it caused a falling out between him and his own mother. Just like Kamala and her mother were having issues and everything in their relationship as well. So, how are your thoughts on that?
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, he didn't want to see anything happen to Kamala, and I mean that was evident too in the last episode when they almost kissed. But it was also nice to see that he wasn't trying to hurt her, that he was sympathizing with her despite what his mother was trying to do.
George, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like the thing like with like Kamala wanting to help him, it almost reminded me of like one of the few things I did really like from Captain Marvel, which was when Captain Marvel decided to help like the Skrulls. Like I feel like I got a similar vibe here.
Yeah.
And that's good for like when the Marvels comes when these two characters eventually meet, because then you're gonna see like the similarities with these characters.
George, what George was saying was the there was a similarity between what Kamala was trying to do and trying to help the clandestines get home, and what Captain Marvel and Nick Fury were doing in the Captain Marvel movie, where they're trying to help the Skrulls and everything
get back to
get back home, get away from the Kree.
Right, exactly.
In that film. And I've got Shandoka's comment up here. I'm so glad the finale wasn't Miss Marvel versus evil Miss Marvel in huge battle. Damage Control was the center stage as the antagonist, and Kamala saved the day not by using her fists but by using her heart.
Yep, very well said.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think Marvel has done well as they have progressed through these series and through the different phases. It doesn't always come down to the hero versus a big bad guy. This was more of an emotional finale more than it was a big blowout finale per se. And the plan that they come up with in episode 6 to stall Damage Control. I mean, the integration of that chalk animation into how they coordinate the plan and how they demonstrate it and everything, I absolutely loved.
I love the science lab and the foam that just wreaked havoc everywhere, which was just great. I love that.
Yeah. So, George, your thoughts?
Oh, what was the question again? Sorry.
No, it's fine. You're okay, bud. How did you feel about the whole Kamala and the gang trying to stall Damage Control in the high school? How'd you feel?
I enjoy it. Like I said, I'm not big on Damage Control like in the MCU because they've acted like jerks, and I feel like it does something different and unique with the finale, because for me, when it comes to the Marvel show finales, the only two that I've really been impressed with, and this doesn't include WandaVision because WandaVision had 9 episodes, was Loki and Hawkeye. Those were the only two finales that I really felt like I felt fulfilled before Miss Marvel. And so when Miss Marvel did something different, like adding Damage Control into that mix, and then obviously we saw at the end that the guy from No Way Home relieving the idiots from duty, I felt like that was very fulfilling. And also it tells me that like there's more to tell with Damage Control in the future as well, beyond Miss Marvel and Spider-Man.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know what the next series is going to be and everything after Miss Marvel. I mean, I know we've obviously got Thor: Love and Thunder, which me and the missus are eventually going to go see and everything. We're probably going to try and see it sometime this coming week. Yeah. But, Damage Control, I mean, like I said, they made an appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home. They had a brief appearance in No Way Home, and then they've got the bigger appearance here in Miss Marvel. And like I said, they're almost trying to be like a stand-in for S.H.I.E.L.D., except S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually, well, I hate to say this, a little bit more competent and a lot better ran. At least everything up until the point where we found out that, well, S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually evil and being run by Hydra.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, because I feel like Miss Marvel, like, it not just is a setup for the Marvels, but I feel like it's also a building block for eventually the Young Avengers. So maybe because we've so far seen Damage Control affecting the younger superheroes, maybe like I feel like maybe they'll save Damage Control for like the next young superhero show or movie.
Mhm.
because it seems like they're easily targeting them more.
Yeah, well, they've targeted Spider-Man. Now, granted, they don't know that Spider-Man even exists anymore because of the spell the Doctor Strange
Well, no,
cast.
they don't know who Spider-Man is anymore. They know Spider-Man exists, but they don't know who's behind the mask anymore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I
Yeah,
sometimes forget about the specifics of the spell. So,
yeah, it's so confusing. I'm hoping the next Spider-Man movie explains it, or Spider-Man's next appearance in the MCU.
um, it'll probably be a little bit before we get another appearance um, by Spider-Man because, well, he's been kind of front and center for a few movies now. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, and want to say hello to the chat, Marcus Cruz. Marcus, always good to see you, bud. And let's bring up your comment here if I can get StreamYard to cooperate and not be stupid. Come on. Changing her to a mutant was the worst decision they made. She's inhuman. Feige hates the Inhumans. I don't have a problem with her being a mutant. I actually think it was a good move to. They didn't come out and specifically say that she was a mutant, just that she had different genes. They didn't specifically say the X gene, but here's the thing: she has a different biology because she is part clandestine. She is from that alternate dimension because, well, her great grandmother was from an alternate dimension, and then I mean, you're obviously there's going to be as a family progresses, and you're going to see um, genetics change within a family. So I don't have a big problem with them saying, I'm not saying, oh, she's got the X gene, but Bruno saying there's something different about your genetic code, and she's like, oh, well, it's just another label for people to slap on me. So, and do want to say hello to Chak Fook Norris. Fook, it's good to see you, bud. Hope you're having a good evening at work, and appreciate you stopping. Appreciate you being here. Oh Lord, rumor. All right, hang on. Rumor is they're doing the Universal Humans as a cosmic storyline going forward. Well, Marcus, with all due respect, I don't put a lot of stock in rumors. I put stock in what I can actually see and what's actually being reported. So, and to my
yeah.
other good friend, the Price is Right reviews. Price is always good to see you, buddy. So, hey, Price, if you want to join me and Madam Ambassador and George, we're discussing Miss Marvel tonight. I can drop you a link on Twitter or anything. Just give me a shouty shout in the chat, and I'll send you a link. So, but you know, with Miss Marvel, they've tried to weave in so many different elements from Phase 4 of the MCU, and even going back to Phase 3 and everything. With the multiversal dynamic, and you've made not only made her multidimensional, but they've expanded upon the multiverse and other dimensions with this series, and the fact that she
I'm back in 30 minutes.
okay Price and everything. I'll send you the link here shortly, and you can hop on in with us. Um, the thing I found, what I was starting to say, is they've been trying to weave in all these different elements like the multiverse, and now they brought in the fact that she is partially mutant, and I think they're slowly building towards mutants being in the MCU, and not only that, but trying to craft a story about this character that not many of us know anything about, anything really, except for those of us that have read the comic on a regular basis. Now, I actually talked to a buddy of mine at work and everything as Miss Marvel was running and everything. I asked him, "What'd you think of it?" He's like, "Really enjoyed it." He's like, "It's one of my favorite series thus far." He's like, "I did." He's like, "I did read the comic." I was like, "Well, what did you think of the changes they made?" He's like, "I was fine with the changes they made." He's like, "For me, it works." And the fact that not only is she a multidimensional character, but she's also a mystical character. she has a mystical element to her, just like Doctor Strange, just like America Chavez, and just like Ned, Peter's best friend. Because if you remember in Spider-Man: No Way Home, who is it that finds the other two Peters? It's Ned, because he has some mystical ability. And the fact that the bangle and everything, kind of the MacGuffin of the whole series and everything, was what unlocked her mystical abilities. So, George, what did you think about that? And George, 1 second. Hey, what did you think about that?
Well, I didn't get a chance to watch Spider-Man: No Way Home. Remember?
Yeah, I know.
So I'm going to pass the buck on to George.
Okay, George.
Well, as far as the Miss Marvel being a mutant thing, I don't mind it. Like, I'll be honest, I never got offended when they announced before the show was aired that they were going to change her powers around, because I'm not a Miss Marvel like diehard fan. I think the mutant thing, it definitely makes for some interesting theories, because I've had these theories when it comes to like mutants in the MCU, like are they going to come in through the multiverse or whatever? Because I feel like with like when it comes to obviously the X-Men, like how are you going to set up the X-Men in the MCU? So it really now makes me wonder like how they're going to handle when other mutants come in the MCU. And as far as like the ties to the multiverse go, I wasn't like really expecting that, but it again, like it's basically fitting a theme that we're seeing, which is that the building blocks for what's eventually to come for maybe the next phase of the MCU, maybe not phase 4, because there's rumors phase 4 is coming to an end. Like the rumors are that in like phase 5 is going to be like a big multiverse event film, maybe something like Secret Wars. So it's another building block to what we could possibly see down the road. It's not official yet. San Diego Comic-Con, I think, is either next week or the following week. We should get a good idea of what's in store for the MCU down the road. But it looks like there's definitely like different corners of multiverse story arcs that are setting up something big down the road. And this is one of the smaller ones compared to Loki, No Way Home, and Doctor Strange. But it does make me wonder, like, will the Marvels now tie into the multiverse?
Well, that's the interesting thing. Well, this is going to be full spoiler because, well, the series the series concluded on Wednesday. This is now Sunday, so we got that mid-credit scene and everything where Kamala sees the bangle glowing again. She touches it and she poofs out through her closet door. And who should come through the other side of that door but Captain Marvel?
Yeah.
So, and from what you told me, why don't you take this, honey?
What?
With Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel come at the end, the mid-credit scene.
The one thing I read was that Kevin Feige had said that Kamala didn't transform into Carol Danvers, that it was a swap. Wherever Captain Marvel was at, that's where Miss Marvel went. And that's why there was the bewildered look on her face when she was like, where am I? What am I doing here? What is this place? I see pictures of me everywhere. Oh no.
So, yeah, that's, I'm glad that they were able that Feige did come out and clarify that this is Captain Marvel, that Kamala didn't transform into Captain Marvel. She is still out there somewhere, and I'm guessing this will be the part of the story that they tell in the Marvels that comes out, well, July of next year.
Yes, in a year.
We've got to wait a year to find out where Kamala is now.
Yeah.
Actually, a year and a week.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, and actually, like I said, like I'm looking forward to the Marvels a lot more now, and I think it's easy to tell that was Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, because though, like if it was still Kamala, she would have been like talking, saying, "Why do I look like Captain Marvel?" Where here she looks very confused, like, "Where am I? Why am I in what looks like a teenage girl's room with Captain Marvel like memorabilia?"
Yeah, and I kind of going back to the beginning of the series a little bit. I love the fact that they have a thing in the MCU now called Avenger Con that they had at Camp Lehigh, where Captain America went through his training and everything, where he was discovered initially.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I really enjoyed about the first few episodes and everything, particularly the very first episode of Miss Marvel. She is the fangirl. And she's spazzing because she wants to do so well at this at AvengerCon because she idolizes the Avengers so much, in particular Captain Marvel, obviously. You get that little summary of what happened in Avengers Endgame and everything. And
Yeah.
honestly, her being this young teenage girl who idolizes the Avengers, but more so Captain Marvel. And the thing that she says, I think it's to Bruno, brown girls from Jersey City don't change the world. Well, you're about to change more than the world, young lady. So, George, your thoughts on that particular plot point in the series? Her going from
Um,
a fangirl to a hero.
Well, as far as I want to start with the AvengerCon thing. I don't know if you ever played like the Marvel's Avenger game from like 2020. It reminded me of the beginning of that game because Kamala Khan's like plays a big role in the game. I haven't finished it. It's been a while since I played it, but I remember the beginning of the
Yeah.
game. Like there's a bench like this Avenger ceremony, like this fanfic contest where like she I guess wins or something. It's been a while since I played, but it reminded me of that where like she's this big fan of the Avengers and she likes to go to all the cons. Although in the game, like her father's more accepting of her being a big Avengers fangirl and takes her to like the convention in the game. But like again, it's like it's another similarity to Spider-Man. Remember, Spider-Man when he started out, he was a big fan of Tony Stark, and then like
Yep.
as his story progressed, he realized like the toll of being a hero. So in here, you're kind of seeing it similar with Kamala Khan, where it's like, she's at a convention with all her favorite heroes. She looks up to Captain Marvel. Now she has a chance to be like Captain Marvel, but it comes with some consequences. Says,
Yep.
her community's put in danger. Damage control is going after them. Her friends, like they're like the tension with her friends. Like one of her schoolmates almost gets like hurt at the convention.
Yeah. Zoe, I think her name was. And the fact that you've got this show almost went a bit meta because social media plays a bit of a part in this series and everything. I mean, particularly with Instagram and YouTube and I think it's TikTok as well. That for me, that was very very meta and everything. I don't know how you feel about it, George, but I thought it was kind of cool. I won't lie. Say
It
as
was
a stuff
also
dude.
realistic.
Yeah.
Because to me, like, let's be honest, of like, let's just say, like, even if we had a guy that made a suit of armor and like flew around the world, or like people in like the city just like shooting arrows, like in Hawkeye, like even if they didn't have superpowers, you don't think like that would make like social media right away?
Oh yeah.
So like it kind of shows a more realistic take where like, oh wow, this is happening, like, and like even though we're a world where like gods and super soldiers exist, spider guys, magicians exist. Like when something like this happens, like it's still unique to them.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes to show that whether it's a fictional world or the real world, the marvelous and the extraordinary still fascinates us. And, with Miss Marvel, the character specifically, Kamala Khan, she is thrust into a situation that she is wholly unprepared for. She's trying to figure out how her powers work, her abilities, how they function. And, you see her stumbling, you see her falling and busting her butt. But eventually by episode 6, working with the Red Daggers, working with Bruno, she finally gets a handle on things and she is able to save the day. She's able to allow Cameron to get away, to get to the other side of the world where he'll be safe and everything. And now there is there's a couple other things, and I want to ask you this, honey. I also want to ask you this, George. How did you feel about the relationship? I think this was a very important relationship, but the relationship between Kamala and her mother, but also between Kamala's mother and her mother. How did you feel about that? If you want to go first, sweetheart.
Well, I mean, I hated the fact that Kamal and her mother, for lack of a better term, butted heads a lot, and I was glad to see that grow into a more of an understanding between them. With her mother finding out about Kamala and her powers and everything, and then with the grandmother and the relationship between Kamala's mother and Kamala's grandmother, their relationship, it was kind of sad to see at first because it was clear that Kamala's mother just saw her own mother as, I have come out the word she used.
Very controlling.
Yeah, very controlling, and also, this is my own word, wacky.
Yeah, her mother, Kamala's grandmother, was kind of a free spirit.
Exactly.
And George, let me ask you same question. How did you feel about the dynamic between Kamala, her mother, her grandmother, and vice versa?
Like Kamal's mom definitely like came across as strict at first, and like I said, I relate a lot more to like Kamal than probably a lot of other MCU characters. The one thing I don't relate to is like the mom dynamic, because like Kamal's mom's like the opposite of my mom, who's like more accepting and like would probably go to AvengerCon if I said, hey, let's go to AvengerCon, because she loves Marvel. But like I like how like you see like the changes in that relationship. And again, it reminded me of the Disney theme, because you always see like there's always tension with Disney parents. And one of the things that I've noticed in more recent Disney movies is the tension between like the mother and daughter relationship. It used to be always like the mother or son, and not the mother or son, the daughter and the son and the father. And here it's fitting into the more recent modern Disney theme, which is the mom and the daughter having tension.
Yeah, to kind of delve into a little bit of my own personal background here. Episode 4, especially, where Kamala and her mother go to Karachi, go to Pakistan to see her grandmother slash Kamala's mother's mother, obviously. That episode for me was really, it reminded me a lot of the relationship that my own mother and grandmother had and everything. My grandmother grew up in a different time where it wasn't as easy for people of her generation to express their love for their children, even though they did love them. And to see how Kamala's mother and grandmother interacted with each other, and for them to finally start to understand one another, and especially after Kamala's mother realizes that her daughter is this individual who has these abilities, and she comes to be very, very accepting of Kamala in all her aspects, and finally says, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're trying to deal with now. It almost reminds me of season 2 going into season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where Buffy's mother, up until this point, doesn't know who her mother is or who her daughter is. And that Buffy is a Slayer, or the Slayer. But eventually, Joyce, Buffy's mother, does become very accepting and very supportive of Buffy and what she does. And even towards the end of her life, I think in season 5, Joyce was still very supportive of Buffy. She always tried to look out for her. She became more accepting of what her daughter was trying to do and everything in terms of her duties as a Slayer. And I see a similar thread here with Kamala and her mother. But the thing that really impressed me was the fact that you saw a reconciliation between not just Kamala and her mother, but also the grandmother, Sana, and Kamala's mom. I really, that for me was, I think, one of the best emotional beats of this entire series. I do want to say hello to the chat. Ferris Geeks World, good to see you, pal. What's up, Ambassador Madam and George? Are you guys aware that before Iman Valentina got the role, she cosplayed for Halloween as Miss Marvel? Glad to know that she's passionate for the role. No,
Didn't know that.
no, Ferris, I did
I
not
think
know
I've
that.
seen that before.
I did not know that, Ferris, and thank you for bringing that up, bud. I appreciate it. So, um, hey, Ferris, I don't know if you're free tonight or not, but if you want me to send you a link over on Instagram, I can most definitely do that if you want to join us. So just let me know in the chat, buddy. And as always, good to see you. So I will say, an actress that I'm not at all familiar with, Valenia, very sharp actress. Very. She was a good casting, I think. At least George, honey, what'd you think? And George, you too.
She was very good. I mean, they hit the hammer on the nail on that.
The nail on the head.
Yes, with her costume, because I think she nailed the role perfectly. I don't think there could be anybody else, at least from what I've seen, that could have done as good a job as what she did.
George, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think she did a great job as well. And one of the things like what I noticed in interviews is she's not just passionate about the role; she's passionate about the MCU in general. Like the way like she talks about like the MCU, it's like she's like probably the biggest like MCU fan when it comes to like the stars of the MCU.
Well, and that's a promising thing. As the MCU continues on, the one way that it's going to remain vibrant and it's going to remain for people is for them to get people for the parts and the right people to work on the writing for these series and for these movies who are passionate about this universe. I mean, because let's be honest here, this is a universe that has been going on for 10 plus years now, and have there been some dips? Yeah, of course there is. There's going to be. There always is. I mean, even with franchises that were going on long before the MCU came around, there were dips. But I will say this much: Miss Marvel is not a dip. As I said on social media, they stuck the superhero landing. I tried to find a GIF or a clip or anything of Angel from the first Deadpool nailing the superhero landing, but I couldn't find it to save my life. But this series really stuck the landing, at least for me. So
I would have used something from Iron Man where he stuck his landing.
yeah, that would work. That probably would have been good too. George, let me ask you, in terms of all the MCU series that we've gotten thus far, where would you rank Miss Marvel?
Probably like my top four, I would say. Like
What's your top
to
four?
me, like
including Miss Marvel?
Loki's probably my favorite. Then probably number two, probably WandaVision, and then number three, I'm gonna go with Hawkeye for number three.
I would have to say my top four. Miss Marvel is definitely in there. I'm gonna have to say What If, and then probably WandaVision and Loki. But just because I like more of the cosmic aspects of the Marvel universe and the MCU, the Earthbound heroes I don't dislike. I key more with the mystical and the cosmic aspects of the MCU, and while this is a more Earthbound hero, she definitely has links to the multiverse, to the mystical elements of the MCU, and to the story going forward. So
yeah, I do enjoy like the multiverse stuff in Phase 4 probably the most so far.
Well, the interesting thing is this is a hero that came from out of nowhere, literally. I mean, as she said, and I'm quoting her succinctly, so nobody try and pin me as being any type of ist, because I'm not. When she said the brown people or the brown girls from Jersey City don't change the world. This is a young woman who has taken on the mantle of a hero because she really looks up to another hero that she deeply respects. Now, granted, people had issues with Captain Marvel, the movie. I personally, okay, all right, Ferris, I do understand. So, glad to have you in the chat, regardless. I know people had issues with the Captain Marvel movie. Me and Mam and Bester, we didn't. We went in, we watched it, we enjoyed it. You need to watch it again.
Yeah, we do.
But see the series tie back to a character that we haven't seen since Endgame, essentially. Now, of course, she did have a cameo appearance in the end credit scene or the mid credit scene for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, but we'll see Miss Marvel again next year, and we'll see Captain Marvel again next year too. And I think this was a good way of them trying to maybe repair Captain Marvel's reputation just a little bit. So, honey, George, your thoughts on that?
I'll let George go first.
George, go ahead, bud.
Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah. I think Miss Marvel was kind of a way of them repairing Captain Marvel's reputation a little bit because of the reception of the movie itself and everything initially. So, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it definitely has driven more interest for the Marvels, especially because Captain Marvel was a divisive film. Like I don't hate the movie, but it's definitely like I consider one of my more least favorite MCU movies.
Yeah.
I feel like had Captain Marvel had come out in Phase 1, maybe I would have liked it more. But the thing is like what may have been acceptable in Phase 1 is no longer acceptable in Phase 3. And I feel like with Miss Marvel, like it's driven more interest.
Yeah, Captain Marvel is a character that people in certain areas of social media and the online sphere have an issue with, particularly because of some of the comments that were taken out of context by the actress who portrays her. I personally never got into the whole outrage game over Captain Marvel. Me and the missus, we went and saw the movie, and it was perfectly fine. Is it the best for the MCU through phases 1 through 3? No, but it's not a horrendous movie. It's not The Last Jedi. It's not The Force Awakens. It's not. I'm trying to think of another bad movie here. Help me out.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie at all. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, and so Brie Larson made some comments that some people didn't like. That shouldn't take away from the fact that her as an actress, she brought the role of Captain Marvel to life. At least for me, on my part, I never had a problem with the movie and thought it was wonderful. And I cannot wait for the sequel. And I'm glad that she's going to be in it.
Yeah,
I'm glad that they've let her hold on to the character and not pulled a Gina Carano or another
James Gunn.
Yeah, and because she made some comments, okay, you're done. They let her keep the role. For that, I was very grateful.
Yeah, same here. Well, let me ask you both. What do you think the impact of Miss Marvel is going to be on the next phase of the MCU?
Well, I know that from the ratings that it's already gotten, it's even past Black Panther. And it's the number one, even though I don't always like Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 98% rating, and it passed Black Panther, which was 96%. So it's got the highest rating in all the MCU movies, shows combined.
Now, is that critics or is that critics and audience both?
I don't know. I think it was audiences.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the ones we care about. We're the audience.
Okay.
So
I don't know. I had to go double check though.
It's all right. It's all right. Well, when I said impact, I meant what do you think her part's going to be in the MCU going forward?
I think she's going to play a major role in the new
conflict.
Yes, and the new line of the next age of Avengers. I think that's what they've been gunning for this whole time, and I think that she's going to play a major part in that.
George, your thoughts?
Well, they definitely like ever do like New Avenger, not you New Avengers, Young Avengers. I think she's gonna be a key member of the team, and I think like she's definitely gonna play a significant role. Now, who will play a bigger role probably in the next big event film, Captain Marvel or Miss Marvel? Probably Captain Marvel, but I
Yeah.
think ultimately like she like with Miss Marvel, you're seeing like the rise of like younger heroes, and I think she's gonna play a significant role in like that said rise of younger heroes. You're seeing Phase Four showing newer heroes, and she's gonna I think lead the charge of like those newer heroes.
Yeah, they've been building out the Young Avengers. Obviously, we've got Kate Bishop, aka the new Hawkeye. You've got Miss Marvel now. I don't see them sidelining Doctor Strange. I definitely don't see them sidelining Captain Marvel. I would even say we're going to see a reformed Scarlet Witch at some point in Phase Four and in Phase Five. I would say we're probably going to eventually see the Vision return. Obviously, Thor, Mighty Thor, both. They're probably going to have a part to play.
Mighty Thor won't, but that's all.
So don't say anything else, or I'm going to yell at you. I don't want any spoilers.
Wasn't my fault. I got thrown on Facebook.
Yeah, I know. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything because I saw Thor: Love and Thunder last weekend. I'm not saying anything.
Well, let me ask you this much, George. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did. Not as much as Ragnarok, but I did enjoy it more than the first two Thor films. That much I will say. Yesterday, I actually bought the Gore the God Butcher figure because I did love Christian Bale's performance in it.
That's I've heard a lot of good things. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard people say it was really, really good. I've heard people say it was god awful. I've got one associate on social media who won't tell me jack diddly. And if he hears this on the replay, he knows who he is, and that's all I will say.
well, next weekend I do plan on making a video talking about Phase 4 because I know a lot of people have been kind of torn, and I was actually talking to my supervisor the other night who is a big Marvel fan, and we had a get together Wednesday night, and as he was driving me home, we were talking about like what's been going on with Phase 4 because while he's enjoyed it, he doesn't love it other than maybe a couple of the shows, Spider-Man No Way Home and Shang-Chi so far.
Mm-hmm. Let me address Ferris's comment, then I'll give my thoughts real quick here. Ambassador and George, what do you think of the changes to Miss Marvel's powers to look more cosmic? I thought it was a fine change that just makes
Then just making a carbon
copy of Mr. Fantastic. Yeah, Ferris, I have to agree. Granted, as I said at the start, I am not terribly familiar with what Miss Marvel's powers were in the comics. I know she had some stretching ability, she could increase her size and so on. Her powers were more molecular in nature rather than cosmic. So yeah, I was good with the fact that she is her powers are based more on magic and interdimensional ability rather than just being able to stretch and grow big and everything like in the comics. So, as far as Phase 4 thus far, I have no real complaints. I mean, as another fellow associate or anything said to me in Jess the other day, I am indoctrinated into the MCU. No, I know what I like. I know what entertains me. I know what allows me to have a good time at the cinema and at home. And Marvel and the MCU allow me to do that. They have not broken my trust. They have not fractured my belief that they can tell good stories and give me interesting characters and interesting storylines that will entertain me and will enlighten me. Because this is the one thing I did want to dig into in terms of Miss Marvel, particularly in episode 5. We got a bit of a history lesson, and I was actually glad because it does play a big part in the character itself. I know some people said they had an issue with episode 5. Myself, I had no issue with the fact that she got teleported back in time. and to like I think it was like the 1930s or 1940s, or no, it was probably earlier than that. I think actually it was earlier than that.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was even before World War II. I think.
Well, before World War One, you mean?
Well, it was before World War. Oh yeah, it was before World War One. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
So you're looking around the early 1900s.
Yeah, the early 1900s, and well, just by the model of the trains themselves, yeah, that would make sense. The history lesson we got in episode 5 about what partition was and what it meant to people of that culture, I found as a history buff was very interesting, but it also played into what happened with Kamala's family, particularly her great grandmother, or her not her great her grand well her great grandmother Aisha, who turned out to be an interdimensional being, but also her grandmother and her grandfather. And we see a very young version of her grandmother in this in episode 5. They're going to ruin the Fantastic Four. Marcus says yet to be seen. No offense, bud, but I don't have any reason to believe that they're going to ruin the Fantastic Four. So anyway, but the thing I found interesting with episode 5 was they didn't play the situation for laughs. They kept the gravity of the situation very grounded. Not to mention the relationship that Kamala's grandfather develops with Aisha. It felt very organic. It felt very real. And honestly, I was very impressed with how they presented this event in Kamala's life, even before Kamala was in the picture, and then she actually gets to play a part in a major family event and a major world event and everything in a very small way, helping her grandmother get back to her father, her great grandfather, essentially. Well, not essentially, it is her great grandfather, even though she never actually meets them. Anything, or not even the fact that her grandmother realizes that it's even her, and the fact that her great grandmother dies and everything right there in front of her. That for me, episode 5, I think was a standout episode of the series. So, honey, George, your thoughts?
It was very nice to see the historical background that they pulled in, and it was very emotional as well. To watch Kamala go through and see what her family had gone through to get where they are today was something that I found very impressive that they did.
George, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it added a lot more to the history and her arc.
You know, for a pair of history geeks like me and the missus, it was different. I won't lie or anything, because they mentioned the event of partition earlier on in the series and everything. I think it's like episode 2 or 3 when they have that big festival there at the mosque in Jersey City where Kamala and her family live. So, but it was nice to actually see what partition was, because for a lot of us here in the West, we have, particularly of our generation, we have no idea what that was. And the way that they presented it, the way that they summarized it, and the way it was presented in terms of the context of the series, they did a good job. So I've got Ferris's comment up here. The best MCU show, in my opinion, is Falcon and Winter Soldier, and like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it was the same exact tone from being a spy thriller.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Ferris, I have to agree with you on that. Honestly, the only critique, and this is like a major critique for me with Falcon and Winter Soldier, was the villain. I'm sorry, the Flag Smashers and that one girl, Rory Morgenthau. I'm sorry, she was not a credible villain, but Sharon Carter as the Power Broker, oh yeah, she is a credible villain. I mean, I even made a video that included her as a part of a theory I have. So I'll bring up your comment here, Marcus. If John Krasinski is not Reed Richards, I'm not watching the Fantastic Four MCU movie, Ambassador. Well, Marcus, that's your prerogative. Myself, if John Krasinski is or isn't Mr. Fantastic, that's not a deal breaker for me. Now, was he very
Yeah.
good? And was he good as Mr. Fantastic in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness? For the little bit he was in it, yeah, he was good. But if he's not Mr. Fantastic going forward, I still love the Fantastic Four. I still want to see them get a good film, and I want them to get a good introduction into the MCU. Of course, if a particular rumor is true, we're going to be getting a very big cameo appearance by a major villain that I have, I have a bit of an obsession with.
Oh, initials D.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. Okay.
DD,
Yeah.
Doctor Doom.
Well, yeah.
I am a. Go ahead, George.
I was gonna say, like, I'm hoping because Comic-Con's coming up, we get the Fantastic Four announcement because
We probably will, and I
yeah,
might
'cause
even,
I'm
I might
looking
even
forward
do
to
a.
it.
I am too. I mean, I might even do a stream or anything discussing what comes out of San Diego Comic Con in terms of Marvel, because well, I'm a Marvel fan. I will be. Marcus, no offense, bud, but that's your opinion. I don't think people are going to give um, are going to put their entire investment into the Fantastic Four if one actor is not a part of that team. That's just me,
Yeah,
though.
people are
That's
still
two
gonna
of us.
are gonna
Okay.
see it. People are still gonna see it as long as the reception's good because people went out and saw the first Fantastic Four film in 2005. It was like the other two because they weren't that good.
Here's the thing. For their flaws, the Fantastic Four films with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans and what's his name, McMahon. I don't want to say Vincent McMahon because that's the wrong person entirely.
Ed?
No, the guy that played Doctor Doom in the Fantastic Four films back in the early 2000s.
I never watched them.
Julian McMahon, I think is his name, his first name. Him as Doom, he was perfect. But now, if the rumors are true and we're going to get Giancarlo Esposito as Doctor Doom, I'm like, yes, please. But that's just me. So I don't know how you feel about that, George.
Who would play Doctor Doom?
The rumors are, and this is specifically rumors, nothing else, that Giancarlo Esposito is going to play Doctor Doom.
I would definitely love to see him play a villain in the MCU, and if it's Doctor Doom, I think that'd be very cool to see.
Well, if he can do well as Moff Gideon, I think he can pull off Doctor Doom.
Yeah, he was a great villain in Mandalorian. Like he can pull off any villain, I think, in the MCU. Like if they give him any villain role.
Well, look at his character in Breaking Bad. Now, granted, I have not watched Breaking Bad from start to finish, but I've seen clips of his particular character, and he was pretty damn good in that too. So, let me bring up your comment here, Ferris. Both Miss Marvel and Moon Knight brought out their Middle East or South Asian theme for the show. It makes me feel like I'm watching and being a part of a different culture.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Ferris, I have to agree. The last couple of the MCU series that we've gotten, particularly with Moon Knight and with Miss Marvel, the characters have been from a different ethnic background. Now, granted, with Moon Knight, it was a little jumbled because the guy had multiple personality disorder, sort of.
Right.
But I'm, again, speaking as a white guy, I'm white. My wife is white. George is white too. I'm not closed off. I'm not so narrow-minded and so antithetical as Charles Xavier and Glenn Powell as. And we'll see how those rumors shake out, Marcus. No offense. So, but I'm receptive to characters from other cultures. Always have been. I mean, for heaven's sakes, one of the biggest characters in cinema is from another culture. James Bond, he's British. Now, granted, it's just a white guy, but it's a white guy from a different culture. But I think what they've done with Moon Knight and with Miss Marvel is they've introduced a pair of characters from a different background, from a different culture, from a different part of the world, but they've made them relatable to the rest of the world. And I think that is a strength of the MCU going forward. I mean, you had Sam Wilson, black guy. You had the Maximoffs. You had I am blanking on Scarlet Witch's first name, and I'm going to kick myself the minute I remember it.
You don't remember her first name?
I think of her as Scarlet Witch.
Well, I do too.
I hate this. But Wanda. Thank you. WandaVision. Duh. Are from Eastern Europe, and obviously you've got Valkyrie. Obviously they changed that character. They changed the ethnicity of that character, but hey, Valkyrie's badass. So she's a little firecracker. So they want a tough badass. Cyclops is, who is kind of a jerk. Still haven't seen Top Gun Maverick. I wish I had.
Phenomenal movie. It was a phenomenal movie.
That's what I've heard from everybody. It's just a matter of the fact that I work 40 hours a week. I work a different schedule now, and I don't always have the time. Maybe I should make the time. Maybe I should just go see Top Gun Maverick and everything. Not that I don't want to see it with you.
But with me and my master's homework and
yeah, exactly. We both work a lot. Not always easy to get out and get to the thing, but we're gonna try. We're gonna do it for Thor: Love and Thunder, come hell or high water. So, but yeah, honestly, let's see. Okay, yeah. Let me bring up Marcus's comment here. Ferris's comment. Moon Knight does a great job of bringing their Egyptian theme to the show. Miss Marvel does a great job bringing the Pakistani theme to the show. Marvel Studios knows the right people to run the shows.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true, because if I am not saying this to be disrespectful or rude, because that's not my intention here. But a lot of the people that were working on Miss Marvel, I could not pronounce their names. And I am not saying that to come off as any type of ist or disrespectful. I'm usually pretty good with foreign names. But I think it's partially because they go by so dang quick in the credits.
That too.
So I will say the strength of Miss Marvel is the fact that they have people that are actually a part of the culture, who understand it, who respect it. Obviously, they would respect it. It's their culture. And who didn't want the culture to be misrepresented. Now, I will say the one thing that they did in terms of the whole issue with damage control, and the fact that they go into the mosque, and the fact that they're talking in one of the damage control offices, is the fact, well, that the CIA, the FBI have got so many mosques under surveillance because of, well, obvious real world reasons that we all know. Not that it's necessarily right, but it's an unfortunate truth of the world that we currently live in. So, but I think they handled that particular aspect of the series very respectfully, but not over dramatizing it or being rude about it. So,
yeah, especially the part the ID is in episode 6, when they all hold up their IDs and damage control walks in.
The fact that they handled it with a touch of humor, I thought was a good move.
Yes, it was.
So, George, let me ask you about that. The fact of how they've handled the different cultures, particularly in Moon Knight and also Miss Marvel and everything, trying to keep it authentic, trying to keep it representative of the cultures in the real world and everything. What's your thoughts on it?
I think they're doing a pretty good job with it, because you got to explore like other locations in the MCU. I remember like Kevin Feige or someone said something like, we want to move some heroes out of New York and explore other locations because New York's been like a location since the first Avengers film. So
Yeah.
like, and like we know, like obviously New York's gonna be limited to Spider-Man, Daredevil, and all the other New York like vigilantes and heroes. So it's like, why not use like obviously like different like countries and locations and cultures like Moon Knight has. I like that Miss Marvel, like for those episodes they went into Pakistan because yeah, I mean, yeah, sure the show takes place in Jersey City, but Jersey City is also very close to New York City.
Yeah.
So you want to like explore like another country, particularly like a country that's like dear to Kamala.
And her family. Yeah. Well, and, that's, some people, again, in other corners of social media and the online sphere are going to look at this and they're going to say, "Oh, the MCU is going woke," and you got the whole MCU nonsense. Guess what? Female characters have been at the forefront of the MCU since it started. Now, granted, some of them weren't necessarily main characters, at least until we got Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow. And of course, you had Pepper Potts, who was more of a side character, but she still had her part to play. But I don't look at Phase 4 as the MCUing of the MCU. You've still got male heroes in the MCU, but you've also got characters from different ethnicities and different backgrounds. And guess what? If a story that they told in a story like Miss Marvel can resonate with people like you and me, who don't come from a different ethnicity, who don't come from another culture that's on the other side of the world, I don't see that as a bad thing. I don't see having female heroes being the forefront of the MCU going forward as a bad thing because guess what? The fellas are still here too. Doctor Strange is still here. Hawkeye is still here. Hulk is still here. I mean, we're going to be getting Miss She-Hulk here in a few weeks and everything. But guess what? The fellas are all still here. You've got Shang-Chi, for Pete's sakes. Hello, he's not chopped liver. You've still got Spider-Man. Hey, another guy. So I would say that the representation in terms of gender is pretty balanced, to be perfectly honest. And I'm a little fed up with all the cringeworthy and patently biased and inauthentic bias or anything that certain individuals who exist in this sphere that you and I exist in, George. If you don't like a damn show or a damn movie, then damn well don't watch it. And let the rest of us who actually enjoy this and enjoy the story that Kevin Feige and his team are telling, let us enjoy it. Am I calling for censorship? No, I'm not calling for censorship. But if you can't look at these series and these movies honestly and have constructive criticism rather than coming up with cringeworthy acronyms like the MCU, then go cover something else. There's plenty more other media out there that you can cover. So,
yeah,
sorry for the rant there, but I get just a little pissed off by these fake geeks and fake nerds out there who claim that they know this stuff and they love this stuff so much, yet all they want to do is piss on it. Guess what? You want to take a piss? Guess what? You want to take a piss? Go to the bathroom.
And like it's kind of why like I left a certain fandom menace like a few years ago around the time Captain Marvel came out. And again, Captain Marvel wasn't even one of my favorite MCU movies. I was critical of it, not Brie Larson, because I saw like what Brie Larson did with the character in Endgame. I'm like, this is the
Yeah.
Captain Marvel I want to see. A witty, cocky, but like also likable character, which like I saw in Endgame. Like I was more critical of the direction the directors and producers took with Captain Marvel. I thought she was much better under the Russos, but it's like,
Yeah.
listen, like just because we're getting more female heroes in the MCU does not mean it's going woke or it's becoming the MCU. It's not like Hawkeye. They killed Hawkeye off and said they killed
No.
Clint Barton off and said, "Hey, Kate Bishop, you're the new one." No, they're gonna share the mantle. It's like they're opening the door for Clint Barton to return, but they're
Yeah,
also saying,
exactly.
"Listen, Kate Bishop is also going to be a main focus." And look, like besides Kamala Khan, like Kate Bishop has become one of my new favorite characters in
I love
Phase
the
4
Hawkeye.
as well. So like I'm like glad that we got her in there. Haley Steinfeld's one of my favorite actresses. Of course, like I'm gonna be celebrating this new character.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm looking forward to seeing like what's gonna happen with She-Hulk. Now, granted, I've not been the biggest fan of how Hulk has been handled in the MCU, but I'm looking forward to seeing
Mhm.
what they can do with She-Hulk and what they can do with Bruce Banner also in that show. And look, like you said, we got Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi, I think, is going to be a promising new franchise in the MCU. We still got Spider-Man. I know people say Tom Holland hasn't signed a new contract, but we're basically going to get probably a new trilogy with Tom Holland
Yeah,
at this
I
point.
would definitely. He's not done. He loves
The
playing
fanta-
this character.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, George. Go ahead.
the Fantastic Four, like 3 of the members of the Fantastic Four are men. Like when the Fantastic Four come along, we're gonna get Blade, we're gonna get Deadpool. Those are male superheroes. The
Um,
X-Men, even though we got plenty of women in the X-Men, we also got a majority of men.
yeah, exactly. So, I'll bring up Marcus's comments here. I give props to Marvel Studios knowing how to hire the right people to create a good story. I'm kind of mixed on Lucasfilm for their Star Wars IP. No offense, Kathleen Kennedy is not a good leader to me. And I get what you're saying, Ferris, too. I think she's done better over the last few years. Yeah, I think she has done better. Did she have a rocky start? Yeah, she did. She had a very rocky start. So I will critique her where it's warranted, but I will give her credit where it's due. So, and also got
I
some
think she's
comments.
done better with the shows than the movies. I
These
think the shows
movies,
she's done better with. The movies, not so much. Like I said, to me, the only great Disney Star Wars movie was Rogue One, in my opinion.
yeah, a lot of people. That's a consensus across the board. I have still not had a chance to sit down and watch Solo. I am eventually going to sit down and watch Solo. Maybe I'll do it before the next May 4th.
I
But
enjoy
I'm
Solo for what it was, but again, it wasn't my favorite. But again, like if you're gonna give me the option of rewatching Solo or Last Jedi: Rise of Skywalker, I'm gonna pick Solo all the time.
yeah, yeah, absolutely so. And Ferris brings up another good comment here. Let's not forget that Marvel Studios has the IPs for Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, The Punisher. Glad to know that Daredevil will get a revival with Charlie Cox returning. Yeah, I did a video. It's been a few months ago. And everything. I did a video talking about the probability or the possibility of a crime war taking place in the MCU, and although, well, I focused specifically on Daredevil and of course, Kingpin now being back in the picture. Of course, we're getting also Echo. That series is going to be coming out, I think, later this year, maybe, or next year. I'm not sure which. So, but it's not the MCU. It's the MCU. And guess what? The boys and girls are here. The guys and the gals are all here to play. So, are they maybe going to have some series that are focused on the ladies? Yes, they are. But you know what? That's not a bad thing. And I think Miss Marvel is proof of that. So was Hawkeye. I mean, obviously, it was also focusing on Clint Barton as Hawkeye. But this is Kate's going to be the focus. That's not a bad thing. She's an interesting character. I mean, I'm not the biggest. I mean, I don't hate Haley Steinfeld. I think she is a good actress. I don't have the biggest crush on her like other people that you and I know, George, and everything. But she is a good actress. She is a good actress, and she
I,
did a
I,
good job in Hawkeye. So
I mean, maybe I have a bias because Haley Steinfeld is around my age, but no, I think she's a great actress in my opinion. Like, yeah, I find her attractive, but I also think she's a great actress as well. So,
yeah,
like, she has a likability to her that fits what I think you needed for Kate Bishop, like especially with Kate Bishop's personality. But again,
Yes.
like all these characters that Ferris like just like brought up, like only one of them is a woman in Jessica Jones. Like all the others are men. So like I said, like this whole idea of the MCU, it's like it's just dumb in my opinion. It's always
It's
been
utter
like this.
nonsense.
And look, I still like, even if like let's just say we are getting more female oriented projects, I still trust those female oriented projects more than what DC's trying to do.
Yes. And, just to let you all know, Mama Bester decided to bow out. She's it's been a rough couple of days in terms of homework and everything, and but I want to thank her as always for joining me tonight. We're still gonna go for a little bit yet and everything, me and George, and I think if Price is Right ever gets his butt in gear, if he can't, he can't. I understand and everything. I'm not giving Price is Right a hard time or anything, but honestly, looking at Ferris's comment here, I can see the Defenders returning. I'm not sure about Iron Fist, the Punisher. Iron Fist wasn't well received. The Punisher is very violent. It probably concerns the men in suits at Disney. I can get what you're saying, Ferris, but you know what? Here's the thing. I think you can do the Punisher in the MCU. You might have to tone down the violence a hair, but I think you can still have the Punisher be a hard-edged character. Maybe not being as brutal, but still be brutal in a way that is manageable for the MCU and for Disney Plus. Now, obviously, they can always put the parental warnings on there. Hey, don't let your kids watch this show. It's very violent. That's what they did when they uploaded all the Netflix Marvel shows onto Disney Plus or anything back a few months ago. And I would love to see. I need to eventually sit down and watch all those series and everything, because at the time I did not have Netflix or anything, and I'll watch them all. I'll even give Iron Fist a shot. So,
Well, I think for like the rated R stuff, I think Deadpool 3 will be a litmus test for that, because that's the one project so far that's guaranteed to be rated R. So I
yeah,
think they're gonna look and see the reception and like popularity of Deadpool 3. Now I know the first two Deadpool films made a lot of money for Fox
yep.
before obviously the merger of Fox and Disney happened. But again, like now we're gonna see, can an R-rated Deadpool fit well with an MCU that has grown darker in Phase 4. If you look at projects like No Way Home, Moon Knight, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but is
Yeah.
still also knows how to keep that family friendliness.
I think if with the reports, I think I read something in Variety. Uh, Disney has kind of taken a hands-off approach with Marvel, and in particular with Deadpool. They're kind of let them do their own thing. I am eventually going to do some reviews. I might even just do it as a watch along or anything for both the Deadpool movies, because I loved the first one. I never got to see the second one. And I like the character of Deadpool. I liked Ryan Reynolds as that character. I think what they did with him in X-Men Origins Wolverine was a complete and utter disservice, because I did know the character of Deadpool from the comics. And what they did to Deadpool in that movie was an absolute travesty. I'm actually planning to do a roast and riff watch along for X-Men Origins Wolverine
Oh
probably
my
in the next couple
goodness.
of weeks. I'm doing that because it's I've not done many watch alongs. I've done a couple the last couple of weeks for my Babylon 5 reviews and everything. But I've missed doing watch alongs, and I'm going to get back into more of those, because they are a lot of fun, in particular with the Marvel films or anything. Some of the the stuff before the merger, or just concurrent with the merger and with the MCU and everything. But with I have said this, and this has always been my stance in terms of Marvel and the MCU. Until they show me that they have lost the ability to tell good stories, to bring me character development or new characters that I find interesting, then they have not lost my trust. And I am going to be here and I'm going to offer a honest and a fair perspective on the MCU, because that's what I believe as a person, and that's what my audience has come to expect of me. I'm not going to be fake. I will never ever be fake. And it doesn't mean I might have a longer time growing as a channel. You know what? Yeah, it probably will. But I'd rather be myself than be a phony. And when it comes to the MCU, it's a universe that I love. It's a franchise that I enjoy watching. And as far as the rest of it, well, the haters can go sit on a rusty railroad spike and spin. Anyway, let me bring up Ferris's comment here real quick. It'll be nice to have Jessica Jones appear in She-Hulk as her private investigator. Not sure about Luke Cage, but having Iron Fist and Shang-Chi would be a good opportunity to expand the martial arts. Yeah, Ferris, that is not a bad idea if that does pan out that way. Don't know if it will pan out that way, but if that's how they decide to reintroduce those characters, hey, go for it. So, George, your thoughts on Ferris's comment here?
Oh, hold on, let me check. So like about Jessica Jones appearing in She-Hulk. Yeah, there's a lot of like rumors that like certain characters will appear, like Wong from Doctor Strange. I think Charlie Cox as Daredevil has been another rumor, although that's not official. I think it's official. He'll be in the Echo series. Jessica Jones, that would be very interesting, but not surprising at the same time. I feel like if you're gonna like start maybe like integrating more Netflix characters, you might as well integrate them into stuff like She-Hulk. Like we already saw No Way Home and Hawkeye integrate Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio as
Kingpin,
and Matt Murdock. So I think She-Hulk would probably be like the next best like way to like integrate those. I feel like the more grounded heroes are the best way to integrate when you consider that the Netflix shows are the more grounded MCU stuff, or what that corner of the MCU.
Well, yeah, the more street level heroes, the more street level villains, is what I think is the term you're looking for, because Spider-Man is more of a street level villain, or street. Spider-Man's a bad guy now. You heard it here first, folks. The more street level hero, and obviously with Luke Cage as well, he's another street level hero. Jessica Jones, She-Hulk, obviously, Hawkeye, whether it's Clint Barton or Kate Bishop, they're more street level. It's kind of like when I did my my theory video on is there a crime war brewing in the MCU? There potentially could be. Now, I've heard some other rumors that another group of kind of anti-heroes that are called the Thunderbolts could be on the horizon.
Yeah, that I think that I think they're hoping to get that film out in 2024. And like they already got the setup, because you got characters like John Walker from Falcon and Winter Soldier, Yelena. Yep. Like you already got like those members. I think you got like
Baron Zemo.
Other ones. Yeah. Zemo. So like they're definitely doing the setup there, and I like that they're also using the more grounded MCU shows and movies to do that, like Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier, because I feel like Thunderbolts, like that's like a more grounded team compared to like other things.
Yeah, like Miss Marvel and
I like that. And I'm actually looking forward to this project, even though it doesn't have a release date, because this is like the first time the MCU is going to go into the more anti-hero side of things. Like when it comes to DC, the one thing that I think DC has done better, it's like the only thing, is like integrating the more anti-hero villains with like the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So like that's something Marvel, I think, now's the time to do that, Marvel, because that's one thing that I think DC does better, which is integrate the anti-heroes and villains in their own solo projects.
Yeah, because I'll say it. The James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, it was a good film. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I love the
And
Suicide Squad.
I've never seen the one that what was the David
The
Ayer, the one that he
2016
did.
one, yeah.
Yeah, I never saw that one.
I like the
And
cast, but the villain and just like the story
the setup
was
was
just
weak.
yeah. It's like a little bit better than the 2005 Fantastic Four, which had a similar thing, a very likable cast, but the story could have been better.
Yeah. And I'll bring up Ferris's comment here real quick. The original Avengers may be gone, but the legacy lives on with the new Avengers, Young Avengers, and the Defenders returning. Not to mention, we'll get the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and maybe Dark Avengers. Yeah, you know, people are entitled to have their opinions. I've always had that. I've always held that stance. It's a common sense stance, but all this hyperbole, all this blow up and this bluster saying, oh, the MCU's done, the MCU's going down the toilet, the MCU's finished. Sorry, I don't see it that way.
Yeah, I see Phase 4 as a rebuilding, retooling. I don't know
Yeah,
if you follow sports, but there's always that
I
phase
do.
a
Yeah.
team's going through a rebuilding, retooling stage. So it's like that's kind of what Marvel's going through because you lost your two big guns in Iron Man and Steve Rogers. You lost
Yep.
another one of your big guns in Natasha Romanoff.
Yep.
Some of your other big guns are either gonna be like on the sidelines, and really like now you got to figure out how you can integrate these other heroes. How do they deal with their own tragedies, whether it's like Thor or Hawkeye and Hulk dealing with the after effects of being like the last remaining members of the original Avengers. Spider-Man, what like the grief that obviously he's dealt with in Far From Home and No Way Home.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, like how does he handle, how his decisions have basically impacted Scarlet Witch, like now that she's lost everything. It's like a phase of rebuilding and grief, in my opinion.
Well, that's what makes for good story building and good for good character development. Because we as individuals, we as people, we grow and we change and we evolve through oftentimes, and it's unfortunate, but we grow through trauma. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens next with Spider-Man because he has now lost literally everything. He's lost his mentor, he's lost his friends, he's lost the only family he had. What's going to come next for him? We don't know.
Yeah,
That's
that's
why
like another video I'm gonna make down the road. Like, how do you do the next Spider-Man film?
I have a feeling if the rumors are true that a portion of Venom was left behind when Eddie Brock got popped back to his universe, we might see that piece of Venom eventually make its way to Peter.
Yeah, and hopefully it's done right this time.
I think it will be because here's the thing: Venom will have build up now. Let's see. In Thor: Love and Thunder, we got Russell Crowe playing Zeus. I'm waiting for the MCU to introduce Hercules. We get the Norse gods soon. We'll get the Greek gods in the MCU. Well, that's the other big thing about the MCU and everything, particularly with these next phases. Now, even going back to Phase 3 with Black Panther, because T'Challa makes reference to the Egyptian cat god Bast. In Moon Knight, we got a much bigger dose of the Egyptian pantheon. Everything not in its full form, obviously, but the fact that the gods still exist And we even got that with the original Thor movies, the first two or three, and everything. You had Thor, you had Loki, you had Frey, you had Odin, you had Heimdall. This is almost, they're really expanding out the pantheon of real world Norse or mythological beings that existed in our real world in the MCU, and they were a part of the Marvel universe in the comics. I mean, Odin was a big player, especially if you played Marvel Ultimate Alliance for the Xbox. Hello, one of my all-time favorite Marvel games. Not to mention, one of my all-time favorite Marvel villains, Doctor Doom, as the main villain. And with Thor: Love and Thunder, obviously, Ferris, as you mentioned, we got the Greek gods, anything with the Russell Crowe as Zeus. It's only a matter of time before they bring more onto the field. I think that's going to make things very interesting for the MCU going forward. So, George, your thoughts?
That's the thing that I love about like Marvel. There's so many different directions to go with this franchise. Like I said, yeah, we lost Iron Man Steve Rogers, but again, there's so many like new characters. There's still so many old characters that you can go in so many different directions. And like I don't want to get more into it because I don't want to spoil anything for Thor: Love and Thunder, but it's just like the door to like endless possibilities is open. It's just a matter of like how much more do these actors want to do? How much more do the directors want to do?
Yeah, that's true, because we don't know how many more movies Benedict Cumberbatch wants to do as Doctor Strange. Now, if they keep making it interesting for him, he'll probably still come back. Not to mention the money probably doesn't hurt either, obviously, with any of these actors. I think the big thing is what is going to be. I think we already know what the big conflict and who the big bad is going to be for phases 4 and 5 or going forward. It's probably going to be Doom. It's probably going to be Kang, more than likely.
Yes.
So,
well, especially for like Secret Wars.
Yeah. Well,
and again, I'm not saying that's official. I'm just saying if that's going to be the big event film that everyone keeps hinting at, then it's definitely going to be one of those two guys. Yeah, for Secret Wars.
Well, if you read the original, I don't know because you're a lot younger than I am, George. But in the original Secret Wars from back in the 1980s, a certain green and chrome clad villain became the big bad. I mean, the big bad. And of course, that was Dr. Doom.
That's what I mean, because like I know there's like two different Secret Wars. There's the one from the 80s, and then there's a more recent one in 2015, which delves more into the multiverse. So it's like a matter of like, are you going to combine the two into like one big story similar to Infinity War and Endgame? Because while the Russo brothers have not been announced to be directing Secret War, they said if they ran the project, like it would be bigger than Infinity War and Endgame if they were in charge of the project. So like that's like how big like Secret War is going to be. Like you're talking on something that could be possibly be bigger than what was the two biggest like comic book movies ever made.
Yeah, that's now, but here's the good thing too. Where they were hamstrung by not having the X-Men and the Fantastic Four for Infinity War and Endgame, they are no longer hamstrung.
Because as long as they introduce the X-Men like before like Secret War begins.
They probably will. Secret War is going to be down the road a piece, I would wager. Secret War is going to be at least another 5, maybe 6 years down the road. Now, granted, that's a ways off, but I'm okay with that, because if they continue to build the universe, they continue to introduce the characters and these teams and everything else the way that they have been, you need that time to build. You need that time to craft the story. You need that time to introduce the villains, the main characters. continue the story arcs of the existing characters, and you can do that. That's the one thing that I really like about the streaming series that they are doing on Disney Plus, because they can tell these stories on more than one medium now, whereas before it was mainly in the movie theater, which, hey, they did a great job, but you can tell it both in the streaming series and in the cinema, in the movie theater.
Especially because like now you can set up characters to later be in the movies. For example, you set up Miss Marvel to now be in the Marvels, obviously. Now, like with WandaVision, you set up Wanda's character arc in WandaVision for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. So it's like now it's like you can actually like make things happen quicker without hurting the story, because now you're showing these characters. And one of the rumored announcements is going to be Captain America 4 with Sam Wilson and Anthony Mackie playing Sam Wilson's Captain America. Falcon and Winter Soldier set that up, and so like now you can have that movie come out now.
Yeah, exactly. So
Without the buildup of using someone else's movie, because that's what they were basically doing at the time. For example, Civil War set up Spider-Man and Black Panther essentially.
Yep. Yeah. No, they did a pretty darn good job with it, but
Yeah.
then you got Spider-Man Homecoming, you got the Black Panther. Now the only thing that stinks is, well, Chadwick Boseman died. So how are they going to work that out? Here's the thing. Do I think they can figure out a way to respectfully write out T'Challa? Yeah, I do. I believe that they'll pull it off. So I was never on the bus or anything in terms of recasting T'Challa, because Chadwick Boseman did such a great job with that character. He really did, particularly in Civil War and in Black Panther, and even his cameo appearance in Endgame. Well, and also in Infinity War, obviously. But yeah, it's going to be tricky, but I don't see them. They haven't screwed the pooch yet. I don't see why they would now. So I'll bring up your comment here, Ferris. Like you said, I don't see the MCU. People just picture the next Avengers being all female, less male, but people forget that there will be more teams than just the Avengers. Yeah. And guess what? They're made up of male and female characters both. I'll bring up your other comment here, Ferris. I can't believe they chose Miss Marvel to finally mention mutation. I'm not sure if Kamala Khan was a mutant. Doesn't really make sense to me. We touched on this a little bit, Ferris, before you came in. George, I don't know. Did you get to share your thoughts on that particular point of Miss Marvel?
Being a mutant?
Remember. Yeah.
I think I brought up how like I didn't mind it, because again, like now we know mutants can exist in the MCU, and it does leave the door open as to how they're going to handle obviously the more well-known mutants in the X-Men. Because I remember I mentioned this I think in one of your X-Men streams. Do they bring the X-Men in through the multiverse, or do they already exist in the MCU but they've been hiding or something? So now like it makes me like second guess my theories.
Well, here's the thing too. We've been trying to theorize how they're going to bring the mutants in. Now, the theory I had, that's part of one of the ones that you've been, it would be the multiverse. But here's another thing that we haven't taken into account, and it's something that they mentioned in WandaVision. They've mentioned in a few other series and movies as well. With all of the radiation that was given off by the snap and by the blip, that's cosmic radiation. What does radiation, at least in a fictional setting, cause? Mutations. Now, granted, with Kamala, it could be different because of her ancestry. That was the word I was looking for earlier. Because her great-grandmother was from a different universe, and her great-grandmother Aisha obviously had a child with a human from our universe. Those genes could pass down. Now, granted, Kamala's grandmother had a bit of that ability, but her mother didn't at all. Now, that's not uncommon for particular genes to skip a generation. And in this particular instance, they landed in, or they were passed down to Kamala. So they can do it one of two ways. With Miss Marvel, they've done it this way, but here's the thing. You could have mutants introduced in terms of all the cosmic radiation that the world was exposed to when Thanos did the snap and Hulk did the blip. That could cause mutations to start to take place in the MCU, because it has been 5 years since both of those events. A first generation of mutants could start to have already come up in those 5 years, or mutants could have even existed before that, but it just kind of maybe accelerated the mutant gene becoming more widespread in the world.
I mean, we've seen in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and like one, and obviously that timeline that like mutants do like exist. But again, there's obviously other differences in that timeline because the Fantastic Four were bumped up quicker, and you got someone else being a super soldier in Peggy Carter. So
yeah,
like it's possible for them to exist. It's just a matter of how we're going to introduce her. Are we going to do the traditional route where they've been around for ages but have been in hiding, like similar to like the original X-Men films? Because you got a lot of history, especially with Magneto, when it comes to like obviously World War II, the concentration camps and how that affected him. And we've talked about that like a few times in the past on your X-Men streams. So like what do you do? Like how do you still be respectful to that background in history, to one of the better like Marvel villains or anti-heroes, if you want to call them that?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's going to be, if anything, it's going to be interesting how they do finally introduce mutants. We've presented 2 or 3 different options in which they could do it. Any of them are likely. It's us kind of licking our fingers, sticking it up in the wind to see which way the wind blows as to how they're going to finally bring mutants into the MCU, and what the landscape is going to be like when that happens. And I think I'll bring up Ferris's comment here, because here's an interesting thing: the character here he mentions, Namor himself, is actually a mutant. Just how his mutation took place is a little bit different. Have you guys seen the look of Namor from Black Panther, Wakanda Forever? What do you think of it? Took long enough for Namor to finally appear in the MCU. I think they were holding off introducing Namor for a particular story, and I think they picked the right one in terms of Black Panther 2. I'll bring up your comment here, Ferris, because it actually ties in right to what we're talking about. Forgot to mention that Namor is also a mutant in the comics, as well as a member of the X-Men. Not to mention he was also a member of the Illuminati in the Marvel Comics universe. It could be possible to explore Namor's powers in the Black Panther sequel. They probably will. Now, the big question is, are they going to introduce Atlantis? Because remember, and in the Marvel universe, not so much the MCU, but in the Marvel universe, Atlantis also exists, and Namor is the ruler of it.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, especially because if there's one thing DC did beat Marvel to the punch, it was introducing their water superhero in Aquaman. And obviously now, like, when you think of Atlantis, you're going to think, oh, Aquaman and DC. So, like, now you got to be careful with that, because you don't want, like, Marvel doesn't also want to be accused of taking from the franchise, especially when Aquaman is the only $1 billion DCEU movie. So you don't want to be accused of taking from the big successful DCEU movie.
Well, here's the interesting thing, though. If I remember correctly, I can't remember who copied who, but the creation of Aquaman, the creation of Namor were not too far apart way back in the day. You know, give me a minute. I'm gonna do some research real quick. So just bear with me for a minute, George.
All right.
So okay, when was name? Oh, come on, learn to type. Namor. Here we go. When was Namor created? Okay, Namor was created in April of 1939. All right, so when was Aquaman created? Aquaman was created in 1941. So, Aquaman made his debut in 1941 in the anthology series Morphin Comics, and since that time has appeared in numerous DC Comics magazines. So, technically, Aquaman is copycat, sort of. So, there's that whole issue kind of settled. Because Marvel was there first. DC copied them.
Well, like I said, like I am interested when we're gonna get the Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer, because it took a while to get the first trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder, even longer than it took to get the Spider-Man No Way Home first trailer.
It's called building hype, George. You and I
Yeah,
both.
I know it's called building hype. I mean, we just got the Clerks 3 trailer 2 months before Clerks 3 is coming out.
Yeah, I know. I saw your link and everything. I saw your posts and everything on Twitter. I will tell you personally, Kev, the Clerks or the View Askew or the Jay and Silent Bob movies, one of the best damn series of movies in the history ever. I love those movies. I
Yeah.
love those characters. Kevin Smith to me is a beautiful genius. I don't care what anybody else has to say.
Yeah, I'm doing an article for my friend site, The Movie Nerds, on my top 5 most anticipated films for the remainder of 2022. Clerks, I'll just say this: Clerks 3 is above all the superhero films.
Hey, dude, I will not disagree with you on that. I will not disagree with you on that, because you know what I would love to see. I don't know if he would ever do it. I don't know if they could give him enough money, but I would love to see Kevin Smith come do a MCU movie.
He loves the MCU. I would definitely love to see him do. He almost did a Superman movie, so like it's not out of the realm for him to do a superhero movie in general. But listen, I would love to see him do an MCU movie. You know, it would be crazy to have like just a cameo from him and Jason Mewes, like in an MCU movie, like acting like Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh man, have you ever seen
Like,
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back?
yes. I actually just like
Oh.
I actually like just got it off Amazon on DVD to do the rest of my reviews on like those movies leading up to
Clerks 3.
Clerks 3. Yeah.
The only one of those films I do not have, and I am come hell or high water, I'm going to get another copy, is Dogma.
Yeah.
I
Dogma is
have,
so expensive on Amazon.
I can imagine. I mean, I have Clerks, I have Mallrats, I have Chasing Amy, I have Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, I have Clerks 2. The only one I do not have, now I don't have Jay and Silent Bob, the reboot and everything. I might pick that up maybe on digital at some point, but I don't have Dogma, and I'm like, I used to have a copy of it. I actually had the special edition copy of it way back when, and I'm like, I never should have gotten rid of those movies, because that movie is
Yeah.
so stinking hard to find.
Yeah, I want to buy. Yeah, I got it. I'm gonna probably buy like Clerks 2 and Jay and Silent Bob the reboot as well. But those I think they're also on Amazon, but they're like a lot cheaper to buy like combined than Dogma. Like last time I checked, Dogma was either like $30 or $40. I'm like, wow, this much for a DVD?
It's because it's such a rare movie.
Yeah,
It
like
is.
I
It
just
is.
got because I just got
Go
like
ahead, George.
Chasing Amy and Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back on DVD from Amazon this week, and like combined, it was like around like $14 combined,
Yeah.
which was actually a pretty good deal for me.
I will say this of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That was the real reunion between Luke and Leia.
Yes.
That was the real reunion between Luke and Leia because you had cameos both by Carrie Fisher and by Mark Hamill. And I absolutely positively loved it. I did.
And also that was the first like cinematic like universe before anything else, like Kevin
Sort of.
Smith's universe.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Of course, if you follow the news or anything, Ben Affleck has him and Jennifer Lopez, or well, Jeff Affleck, have now tied the knot.
Yeah, I did see that.
So,
And he's also going to
congratulations.
be in Clerks 3.
Yeah, that's what I saw the trailer for, it, and I was like, "Dang, they're getting everybody back."
Hopefully, they get Jason Lee back.
Oh man, I hope so.
I'm still waiting for that Mallrats sequel.
It'll probably never happen.
They have a tile for it called Twilight of the Mallrats, but it's like you got to get it done because, and again, I hope she gets better. Shannon Daughtery's got a really serious form of cancer.
Yeah, she does, and I hope she's able to beat it. You know, as a teen of the 90s, did I watch Beverly Hills 90210? Yes, I did. I didn't watch it religiously, but I did watch it, and I didn't hate her. I did. Although I will always remember that one little line in Mallrats when Willem Black says, "Brenda," and she's like, "Dick." Because that was the name of her character in Beverly Hills 90210 was Brenda Walsh. So, let's see. It boggles me that as much as Kevin Smith represents the nerd novice, he didn't get a good opportunity to make a good superhero movie. His Superman script is good, but Hollywood is mad at him. Ferris, that happens. You know, when I did my Kevin Smith director spotlight back last year, I proposed an interesting hypothetical. What if Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino did a movie together? That would be the greatest movie in the history of forever. Tarantino directs, Smith writes. They both produce, and they both cameo. Be the greatest movie ever. I don't know who the cast would be, but knowing those two, they would cast it brilliantly.
Yeah, and with like Marvel and Kevin Smith, like I never seen Jay and Silent Bob like reboot, but I know there was like a clip where like Brody from Mallrats like basically goes on a rant saying how great Marvel is because like they're making fun of like how many sequels movies get. So Jay's like, "Oh, you want another Marvel movie?" And Brody goes on this rant saying like those Marvel movies are cinematic gold.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I know it's like.
Go ahead, George. Go ahead, bud.
Like Ferris, before he brought up the Kevin Smith thing, he did bring up like how Namor's been a supporting character. I feel like that's basically what Namor's going to be in the MCU, though.
Maybe, and if that's the case, okay, cool. When I got into the whole YouTube social media game, I didn't get into it was I hoping I would make some friends? Yeah, sure. Did I get into necessarily be the popular guy on the corner? Wouldn't hurt. But you know what? I was kind of the outsider. I was kind of the loner in high school. I mean, I had friends. Don't misunderstand me. I had lots of friends in school. But did I do this to get rich? Did I do this to get popular? No, I just wanted to share my passion and my love of this thing called pop culture and the impact it's had on my life. And I'd rather talk about this stuff and enjoy it, or even if in the particular case of Ferris, absolutely, rest in peace, Luke Perry. Yeah. Totally. Do I want my thoughts and ideas to reach as many people as possible? Yeah, but I also, okay, here's what I was trying to say. Excuse me. Will I riff and I roast the occasional bad movie, but have a good time doing it? Yes, I will. But I will never badger, I will never harass, and I will never denigrate a person who has creative ability. Because at least they go out into the arena and they try. I would much rather a person try and fail than never try. Now, have I given my own ribbing and my own critique of Rian Johnson? Yeah, I have. And was I maybe a little unkind at times? Yeah, maybe I was. But I will say this. Did he try and do a good Star Wars movie? Yeah, he did try. Do I think he succeeded? No, I don't think he succeeded. But at least he tried. Now, people will disagree with me and say, well, Rian Johnson made a wonderful Star Wars movie and you're just completely wrong, Ambassador. Okay, fine. That's your perspective. But no one person's perspective is right. And no one person's perspective or a group of people's perspective is right or wrong. We're all just trying to get by in this world. And we're discussing this stuff because it's fun. And
Yeah, and like I said, like the other day I had a great discussion with my supervisor on Marvel, like on the way home.
And and that's a great thing because when you're with people at work and you might have maybe one point of connection with them, and that's something as like a fictional world like Marvel, that makes your life and their life just a little bit brighter and maybe just a little easier to get through the day, get through the shift.
Yeah, especially because we work with kids, so like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like we're working at summer camp, so like it makes like it's a good like preparation for the day, especially when like the kids like have similar interests.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say this, and this is the only time I will make any type of political statement on here. Things for us in the US of A are rough right now. Across the board. Things are bad. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it. I'm not going to try and say it isn't because it is. Because things are bad. I've talked to Mother Ambassador. I've talked to people who were alive in the 1970s and the 1960s. And I asked them, was it this bad then? And they said, yeah. And I asked particularly Mother Ambassador, I was like, how did you make it? And she's like, well, I had your dad. We had each other. We had our family and we had our friends. And eventually things turned around and things were better for everybody. And she's like, we had stuff like you all talk about now that helped us take our mind off things and made life just a little bit easier. So if me sitting here with my wife, with you, George, and whoever else wants to join me and discuss Miss Marvel or the MCU or Star Wars or whatever the hell it is, can take our minds off just how rough life is right now for maybe just a little while, then I have done my job, quote unquote. I have done what I set out to do. I started this channel, will be 3 years in November. Like I said, I never did this to get rich or get big or get famous. I did this because I love it. And
Yeah.
as long as I love it, as long as I can do it, I will be here to give my ideas and give other people like yourself, George, an opportunity to share their ideas too. And hopefully, just like my parents and your parents did, and your grandparents did, we will get through this together. And eventually, things in this country will get better.
Absolutely. And again, I'm someone who was a little kid when 9/11 happened, so it's like I've seen this country like through the worst times, and I've also seen it at its best times. So hopefully like the best times do come, but at the end of the day, we also it's a reason why we also tune into this stuff, to get away from the real world, to get away from the
Yeah.
drama that is society.
Yeah.
And like hope, like, even though we're never going to have the powers of Spider-Man or Kamala, like that maybe we can inspire to like still like have those goals that they have. Things like with great power comes great responsibility. That's relevant even without powers.
Yes. Or, even what, to kind of tie this back to Miss Marvel, when I think it's her father says to her, if you save one person, then you change the world. And, I did this as a joke in part, but I did it also because it was a way for me to express myself politically. I put out a poll, and I made a picture. Who is more popular and more well liked? The fictional hero or the scuzzy politician? And yes, I am making reference to the current vice president. And you know what? I loved what Kamala's father said to her towards the end of episode 6. We named you Kamala because in our tongue, your name means wonder or marvel.
Well, also like what he says reminds me of like what was on Aunt May's tombstone, No Way Home. When you help someone, you help everyone.
Yep. Because Aunt May, we never got Uncle Ben, but we got Aunt May, and we got a badass Aunt May. I'm going to say it. She was the best. I'm not saying this because I'm ageist or disrespectful to Rosemary Harris, who played the first Aunt May. She was great as Aunt May in that particular Spider-Man universe. Marissa Tomei as Aunt May. She was a babe. She was a cougar.
Yeah, but listen, she had a great message with her, like
She did.
helping out at the feast center. Like I know, like at first, like she was meant, like it was like a running gag about like her looks, but it's like, she helped at the feast center. She inspired Peter to like help everyone.
Yeah, and that's what Kamala will do through her example, because she will inspire her community, the people around her, her own family, to try and be more proactive in the world around them. And that is no small thing. This is one thing we didn't really touch upon, but when she finally got her costume, and it was her mom who had it made for her, and it was inspired, the bolt, the lightning bolt and everything was inspired because of the necklace that had her name in Arabic and everything, but it was broken, and she looked at it, and her mom had it embroidered on the on her costume. And I was like, that was such a we saw her in her homemade Captain Marvel costume, and that was cool as hell. I'm not gonna lie, it was. She did a good job on building it, her and Bruno both. But to see Um, to see her in her comic book themed costume in episode 6, it was cool. And the way they introduced it, the fact that it was something that her mom had made for her, it was her mom saying, I understand who you are now, and I embrace who you are now, and I want you to be that hero, and here's a way of you doing that. So
Yeah, and especially for someone like me who works in childcare, like we just had hero theme last week at camp. So like we had like community heroes, and like our supervisor said, for us, we're basically the community heroes in the stage. And on Friday, I got one of the like most uplifting things when like my group got a shout out for coming up with a game at gym that all my kids loved, because in the past I've never been the best when it comes to gym at camp, but like I finally found a game that all my kids love, and it just like brings like great joy to me that like these kids are enjoying something that I'm doing with them, even though it's not my strongest suit when it comes to camp. It's usually been arts and crafts.
mm-hmm. Hey, there's an acronym that I think you'll probably get. ARC, a random act of kindness. You don't realize just how the smallest random act of kindness can impact a person's life. And for you, it was creating that game, and you all got recognition for it. And you know what? That's great. It truly is. And I'm proud of you. And I'm happy for you that you got that recognition. And, for me, it's the thing I loved about Miss Marvel was the sense of community that really was present in that show and everything. Particularly when they went to that festival, when they went to the the Eid festival, I think it's called, and Bruno got to go along with them and everything because he was looking so much, looking forward to it so much, and um, they were Kamala's family was so accepting of Bruno, even though he himself is not Muslim. He doesn't follow Islam, but they allowed him in. They gave him a sense of family, a sense of home that he doesn't really have. And I love that. I love that about this show and everything, because it shows that even an outsider can find a place amongst others who he doesn't share any type of culture with, but that culture can be very accepting of him. And the character of Bruno, I think, was a very well-rounded character. I mean, obviously he had feelings for Kamala, but he never really expressed them, per se. And, do I think he was a little bit sidelined and everything by Kamala? I think maybe unintentionally, yeah, he was. But I think she cares for Bruno as a friend, not so much in terms of in the romantic aspect. But he wasn't he was by no means a small character in the series. So I'll bring up Ferris's comment here, and yeah. And this
I
was
love this
said.
praise.
I do too. I love this quote by Rosemary Harris from Spider-Man 2. As Aunt May. I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble, and finally allows us to die with pride, even though sometimes we have to be steady. Yep. I love that. Fulcrum Entertainment, Fulcrum, it is a pleasure to see you. I know it's been a little while since you and I have spoken and everything, folks. Another really good channel and everything here on YouTube and everything. Fulcrum Entertainment, go check them out. They are worth your time. And I will be working with them in the future here in a few months or so and everything when we start on Project Unity of the Force. So, but they have a great channel. I've watched their content as often as I can. So if you're not subscribed to them, go give them a subscribe. share they are on Twitter and everything at Fulcrum Entertainment. Share them out with everybody you know, and let's help them grow too. So, but Fulcrum says this show has definitely grown on me. It was kind of slow going, but it had a lot of fun parts and a lot of heart. Fulcrum, I wholeheartedly agree with you, bud. I wholeheartedly agree and appreciate you being here this evening. So, and hey, well, Price is here. Price, if you want to pop on for a few minutes and everything, I did send you that link on Twitter and everything. If you want to pop in and talk about Miss Marvel for a little bit, we're not going to go for super long because, well, we're already coming up on 2 hours, and I do have work tomorrow morning, so I do have to get to bed in a little bit. But I can give you about the 10-15 minutes if you want to share your thoughts on Miss Marvel. Price, get on in here, but would love to hear what you have to say.
But the sense of community that you brought up, it's another thing that hits home for me. It surprised me how relatable Kamala Khan is to me, and how like this show is, because for me, like I like to stay active in my community, not just like working for the YMCA, which I do, but volunteering at my church with religious education, cleaning up like our parks, like sometimes in the summer. Like that's always been something that like has resonated with me since like when I was in college, like a few years ago. And it's something that continues to, especially like in this like COVID world where like, especially when you work and volunteer with kids, like kids need something to look forward to. They've had a rough like couple of summers, rough couple of school years. So there's just that sense of duty, just making sure at least one kid has a memorable time.
Yeah, I never really worked in summer camp or anything like that or anything. I never even went to camp. I never really didn't have the opportunity. But you talk about the sense of community, and I can speak to that in terms and the religious and in terms of church. Particularly when I started going back to church in 2010, it was different for me because I wasn't accustomed to going to a larger church, but there was a great sense of community. There was a great sense of inclusion and everything. And at times it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of hard work too, but it was a lot of fun. And you got to really spend time with those that were different than you in terms of maybe their background, maybe not so much their belief, but also there was that commonality. There was that connection in terms of where you came from, in terms of your faith. And, that's one thing that this series of Miss Marvel handled very respectfully. Price, I sent it to you on Twitter and everything. I sent you a DM link and everything. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure I did.
It
So hang
should
on.
be in the group chat that we're in.
I didn't send it through that one. I just sent it to him privately and everything. I sent
Oh,
a
okay.
separate message. No, it's okay. Huh. That's weird. I could have sworn I sent it. All right. Well, hey, Price, hang on just a minute, but I will send you that link. Okay.
Oh, what did I break?
Oh no, George! Please tell me you didn't break something.
Oh no, like it was probably, I think it was just like some kind of I think it was a popsicle stick that accidentally broke, because I'm just like checking like something in like my bag of art supplies.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, nothing majorly big. Like no, it was like supplies that was left over from when I worked at after school, because I like to save stuff for summer
Oh,
camp.
I gotcha. Okay.
So I'm just
All right,
like
Price.
making
I just
sure
sent you
like.
the Price. I just sent you that link, bud. So, but as I was saying, obviously you and I we're both Christian here, but the way they handled the religious aspect of Kamala's character was really well balanced. And for the first time, for someone like me, It was a look inside of a Islamic mosque at how they do a worship service, and it might seem foreign to us because there is a separation of the genders. The men have their section, the women have theirs, but that's how it's done for them. And I didn't see it in terms of it being a bad thing. That's just how they order their worship, how they worship, how they practice their faith. So, and everybody give a warm welcome. He hasn't been here in a little bit, but he is always welcome here, Mr. Price. Price is Right Reviews.
What
Hey, Bryce,
is
good to see you.
happening, everybody? Good to see you guys
Hey,
too.
how you doing?
Pleasure to see you again, George.
Hey, Price.
Yeah, the reason I've been on so as well because I've been doing some training for my new job, so I've been kind of off and on when it comes to YouTube right now. So
Yeah,
I
I,
remember- I
understand
remember.
that. Like, the last
Yeah,
couple
I
weeks
get
have
too,
kind of been
right.
crazy for me with camp and getting ready for camp.
oh, nice.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I work at summer camp, so like, and again, like we're trying to make it like a great summer for these kids,
Ooh, very awesome.
especially
Yeah,
with
so-
all COVID and stuff.
Oh no, I was going to say tonight's my last night before I go back to quote unquote work or train tomorrow. So I'll be going at around 6 a.m. So I figured, hey, why not just end my weekend with a good time on YouTube, with my good friends. So
So, Price, your thoughts on Miss Marvel? What did you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Somewhere in the
Well, I
middle?
didn't really get a chance to really watch a lot of the series. The only time I ever saw her was from the movie, the Doctor Strange 2, but from her comic persona.
That was a different
That's
character entirely.
That's America Chavez, I think you're thinking of.
I thought the same character, but as far as Miss Marvel, I just see her as kind of another Marvel spinoff, like a Teen Titans kind of character. She seems like real cool. I'm not as familiar as I would be for the Titans of DC, but she seems like an interesting, unique kind of character from the rest of the Marvel universe. But that's all I really know about her that much. So you'll just have to give me a rundown of her.
Well,
I know I'm late.
Okay.
You can kill me later, but
yes, I'm going to kill. No, I won't kill you, but I'll do this. And before I do this, I'm going to say hello to the chat, Jedi Bill, buddy. It's good to see you, but my friend, it's been a while. Another great YouTuber, guys, and everything. Jedi Bill, known him since I got started. We
nice.
kind of lost track of each other for a while, but now we're talking again. So does a lot of watch alongs,
Nice.
does a lot of good content, does a really great late night stream called Insomniac Soup, because unfortunately Jedi Bill has insomnia and everything. But another really good channel to give your support to and everything. If you're not subscribed to him already, go check him out. Tell him I sent you. And well, if you don't tell him, well, then I will just have to
Absolutely.
I will nuke you from orbit, just like this.
Nice. I do resent one thing. I do resent one thing you said though. You
What?
told your missus that I'm strange. No, I'm weird. Get it right.
There's not
Okay.
much difference. Well,
Okay.
essentially, okay, Price, essentially Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel, she idolizes, and I don't say this in a bad way, she idolizes Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers.
Mhm.
In the series, she discovers that she has superhuman abilities and that her great grandmother is from another dimension, which is why she has superhuman abilities. And Damage Control gets their nose stuck in stuff that they shouldn't be stuck in because, well, Damage Control doesn't do any control. They just cause a lot of damage. And it's, honestly, Price, it'd just be easier if you go watch the series.
That's fine. Like I said, I already had that much time, but like I said, when it comes to characters like spin-off characters like her, I just see her like it is not that much different than a Titans character. Just a protege
honestly,
of the hero.
She's a lot more interesting than the Teen Titans across the board.
Well, no. I'm saying that she's more like a student or a junior or a sidekick kind of character, not really mainline character for my personal taste.
She's actually more of a mainline character. Just
Well, I didn't know that. Okay, gosh.
Well, hey, I should come in here. You tell me you don't even watch the show, so why should I even let you in? You flatulent
I just said hello. You said you want to pop in.
Yeah, because I figured you'd watch the show. You flatulent butthead.
I just enjoy having a good time anyway.
I know, Bryce. You're fine, bud.
But and besides, like, I'm probably not gonna be watching this show in the first place. Because, like I said, I'm working a lot. But like I said, with all the quote unquote wokeness, I guess I would say, I just don't even bother that much anymore as far as Marvel and different things. But
well, with all due respect, Price, you're listening to the wrong people. The show is not woke. Neither is Marvel.
No, I'm not saying the show in general. I'm just talking about all the craziness happening in the entertainment industry in general. Not really, Like I said, the curtain came down for me when Endgame happened. So a lot of Marvel movies after that, I was like, meh, kind of thing. So as far as spoiling for me,
you're depriving yourself of good films, my friend.
Okay.
You are. You're depriving yourself of good films.
Well, the one good film I'll probably enjoy seeing is Keanu Reeves as Ghost Rider.
That would be badass.
You're not going to have any context if you don't know what else is going on besides Keanu Reeves as Ghost Rider. Hello.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but like I said,
you need to stop listening to that old curmudgeon in the orange hat and actually go watch stuff that's.
I don't.
I'm teasing. Bryce, I'm giving you a hard time now. Just relax.
I am laughing.
And I'm goofing with him too. I know there's stuff that Orange Hat likes. He's just a bit of a curmudgeon and a little bit of a hothead. I still like him. I still call him I still call him my friend. He is my friend. But he's a curmudgeon. He's a bit of a hothead. So he's like Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon combined from grumpy old men. Except he's not old, but he's just grumpy. And he's a man.
I know. He just I respect the heck out of Orange. He cracks me up too.
At least I think he identifies as a man. If he doesn't, he's the hairiest woman I've ever seen.
Oh, jeez.
Well, not to get too political and everything. Well, I saw the funniest okay, sorry. Lord, forgive me. I saw the funniest darn clip. I'm not talking to you. I was talking to God. You're not God.
Oh.
Let's see. Forgot to ask this. Did any of you guys see the Miss Marvel costume Easter egg during the Avengers Con moment? It's a reference to Carol Danvers first. Yes, I did. Varys. I was like,
yes.
Wait a minute. I know that costume. That's the original Miss Marvel costume. Yeah, I did see that, Ferris. I was like, hey, I know what that's from. Anyway. Well, Price,
I would say the only thing...
Go ahead. No, you first.
No, I was just going to say probably the only thing I've watched of anything of Miss Marvel is that game that came out recently, that Marvel's game that came out recently.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I didn't even play it. Yeah. I will say this. Yeah. I think this series is superior to the character in the video game. Because I actually found Kamala... Well, Price, I know you follow me on social media. I mentioned this to George a few minutes ago, but I don't know if you saw the poll I put out a few weeks ago asking who is more popular. You probably okay.
Oh, yeah, that poll, yeah. Never mind. Yeah, I know what you're talking about
now. Who's more popular, the fictional character or the scummy politician? One is a legitimate, marvelous thing. The other one, it's marvelous that she survived this long in life.
Well, I'll say this: if you were to put Captain Marvel as in Brie Larson with the politician, I don't know which one's worse.
I'd still vote for Brie because at least she's pretty.
She loves Nintendo.
She is. Why? Because she made one off the cuff comment that a bunch of people didn't like.
Wow.
That a bunch of she made one off the cuff comment that a bunch of grumpy old cynics and wannabe geeks and nerds didn't like. Ergo, she's been harassed and harangued for the last several years. The other one, the only reason she's in politics is because she got in on her back. So tell me this, Price. Which one's worse? The woman that actually has some sort of talent, or the woman whose only talent is being on her back?
Oh, man.
Because I do believe, even if you don't particularly care for the awards, Brie Larson won an Oscar for an actually pretty good movie, which I did watch. The other Kamala, well, she's just a mess.
Oh, man.
And that's as far as my political commentary on this channel will go. Look, I keep the ambassadorial wing apolitical as much as possible.
I know you do. I just saw that. I'm looking at the poll right now and like, why? Oh, man.
Well, because Kamala Khan is likable, she's charming, she's funny, she's brave, she has a good personality. She was, well, if she was a cousin from a different branch of the family, I'd actually want to associate with her. If the other Kamala was a member of my family, I disown her. Just saying.
Yeah, I agree with it. Yeah.
Anyway,
but even though I haven't really watched the TV series, I'm always willing to learn about this new character because, like I said, I'm not really familiar with Miss Marvel other than hit snippets of like that game and see comic book references. But
Price, I say this with all sincerity. I think George will agree, and as with Madam Ambassador, she was still here, but she was kind of tired. She's had a rough week with her schoolwork and everything. I think all three of us would tell you, go watch Miss Marvel. You would probably enjoy it.
Okay.
Anyway.
I probably will. Yeah, like I said, with all my scheduling and work, but yeah, I'll give it a try.
Well, all 6 episodes are up on Disney Plus now, so. Let's see, Ferris. I thought it'd be cool to see Carol Danvers' first appearance in the MCU as the partner to the OG Captain Marvel, a dude from Miss Marvel or Warbird before coming the new Captain Marvel. We didn't get it that way, Ferris. We got the way we got it, and the way we got it wasn't bad. So. Well, anyways, guys and gals, geeks, nerds, ambassadors everywhere, I think we're going to wrap it up for this evening. I do want to thank all my guests, whether they well-informed and prepared or not. Madam Ambassador, Just George, and Price is Right Reviews for joining me this evening for the discussion on Miss Marvel and a few other things as well in regards to the MCU. As always, if you enjoyed the stream, smash that like button and share this out with your friends. And of course, leave your comments on with your thoughts about Miss Marvel. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you bother to even watch it?
Of
course,
I knew you were going with
that. Of course, me and Madam Ambassador, and maybe if a few other people actually bothered to watch the movie, we'll be back next week with our review of Thor: Love and Thunder. To those of you that follow me or tune in for the Council of One's Babylon 5 review, there will be no stream this Thursday. We are taking this Thursday off because several members of the council are going to be out. But I'm also working on, but we will be back the following week to wrap up our review of Season 5 of Babylon 5, of course. Also going to be starting my brand new Ultra Retro review series. I've just got to get in contact with my collaborator and everything on that particular project and everything. But to give you all just a little hint, we're all with the Ultra Retro, we're going to see a wizard. So that's all I will say. But anyways, folks, And of course, if you come across this stream and you did enjoy it, and this is your first visit to the Ambassadorial Wing, and you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We are slowly climbing towards 500. We will eventually get there. Come hell, high water, or the damn YouTube algorithm, we will get there. So, but
Yep.
as always, y'all have a great night. Have a great week. Stay
Good seeing
ambassadorial.
everybody.
And until next time, these are the ambassadors signing off.